The air in the cramped, neon-lit hallway thickened the moment Liam leaned in. We were pressed shoulder to shoulder, ostensibly waiting for our shift to end at the bar, but the casual proximity felt anything but. He was laughing at a joke Maya had just told, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated right through the denim of my jacket and into my chest. My heart, already doing a frantic percussion solo against my ribs, missed a beat when his gaze snapped from Maya's face to mine. Intense. Electric. A mischievous glint danced in his whiskey-brown eyes as he lifted a hand, intending to brush a stray lock of hair from my forehead. It was a simple gesture, yet the anticipation of his fingers against my skin sent a sudden, hot flush over my cheeks. His hand paused just inches away, the charged silence between us deafening, pulling the entire noisy world outside the bubble we were in. "You have a smudge of something," he murmured, his voice dropping an octave, husky, close enough that I could smell the faint, clean scent of his cologne and something uniquely him, like rain and spices. He didn't move any closer, yet the space between us felt non-existent. I was breathless, completely paralyzed by the sheer, undeniable awareness of him. My lips parted slightly, unable to form a word, the unspoken tension between us a tangible, heavy thing. His eyes dropped momentarily to my mouth, a flicker of raw intention there, before snapping back up, locking me in place. The casual, playful teasing we usually shared had evaporated, replaced by this intense, dizzying heat. He finally closed the gap, his thumb brushing lightly, lingeringly, across my temple. It was just a touch, barely there, but it felt like a brand, setting every nerve ending on fire. He leaned in further, his breath warm against my ear, making the fine hairs on my neck stand up. "You should probably get that taken care of," he whispered, a smirk playing on his lips as he straightened up, leaving me dizzy, my knees weak. He winked, grabbed his bag, and walked away, turning the corner. But as he disappeared, I noticed Maya, standing by the fire exit, her phone pressed to her ear, watching him go with a strange, possessive intensity. And then, her eyes met mine, sharp and cold, a look I'd never seen before she quickly covered her mouth with a hand and mumbled something into her phone, turning her back on me. What was she hiding? I couldn't shake the feeling of that phantom touch, the ghost of Liam's heat on my skin, even hours later. The image of Maya's sharp, cold gaze still burned in my mind, a jarring contrast to the easy familiarity we'd shared since high school. Maya and I, we were supposed to be an unbreakable unit, the kind of best friends who finished each other's sentences and knew each other's passwords. Liam, though. Liam was the beautiful complication. He had walked into our lives 6 months ago when he started working at the bar, and he immediately became our unofficial third musketeer. But between Liam and me, there was always this undercurrent, this high-voltage tension that Maya seemed deliberately, almost aggressively, oblivious to. Take last Saturday, for instance. We were all crammed onto her tiny sofa, watching a terrible horror movie. Maya had fallen asleep on the far end, head tucked into a cushion. I was halfway through a bag of chips when Liam reached across her, his arm brushing mine, to grab the remote. His fingers accidentally tangled with mine, and the brief, unintended contact was enough to make my stomach flip. Instead of pulling away instantly, he held my gaze for a beat too long, a slow, knowing smile spreading across his face. It was a silent conversation, a mutual acknowledgement of the spark that constantly hummed between us, a spark we both pretended wasn't there for Maya's sake. But lately, the pretense had grown exhausting. I noticed the cracks appearing in the foundation of my relationship with Maya. She was increasingly distant, snapping at me over minor things, and always on her phone, typing furiously in hushed tones whenever I entered the room. Her excuses were vague. Work stress, family drama, but I felt the distance growing, a cold, hard wedge driving us apart. I was tired of tiptoeing around her moods, and the truth was, my unspoken desire for the connection I shared with Liam was becoming a desperate longing. Just yesterday, Maya had completely forgotten my half-birthday, a silly, annual tradition since we were 12. When I mentioned it casually, her face blanked. "Oh, right. Sorry, I'm so swamped," she mumbled, not meeting my eyes. It felt less like an oversight and more like a deliberate dismissal. That small hurt made the exhilarating, forbidden thrill of Liam's attention even more appealing, a soothing balm to the growing loneliness I felt with my best friend. Later that evening, Liam and I had closed up the bar alone. The air was thick with the scent of spilled beer and cleaning chemicals. We were wiping down the counter when our hands met over a damp rag. This time, he didn't pull away. He just paused, his hand covering mine, his touch strong and incredibly comforting. "You look tired, your character's name," he said softly, his thumb gently rubbing the back of my hand. "Is everything okay?" His concern felt so genuine, so there, unlike Maya's recent apathy. I wanted to spill everything, the confusion, the yearning, the fear, but I just shook my head. "It's fine," I lied. He squeezed my hand once, a promise of support, before finally releasing it. As he walked toward the back, his shirt straining across his shoulders, I looked down at the hand he touched. The attraction was a physical ache now. I was walking a tightrope, caught between my loyalty to Maya and this raw, undeniable pull toward Liam, and I knew, deep down, that one of us was about to fall. I just didn't realize how high the stakes really were. The tension between the three of us reached a critical mass at Maya's birthday dinner. Liam was there, of course, seated directly across from me, and Maya was radiating a forced, brittle happiness that didn't quite reach her eyes. Every casual interaction felt like a landmine. When Liam complimented my dress, a simple, black number I'd spent too long agonizing over, Maya's smile didn't falter, but her grip on her wine glass tightened visibly. "It's fine," she cut in, her voice too bright. "But you know, Liam, that red one I wore last week? That one really had wow factor." She steered the conversation aggressively toward herself, leaning toward Liam, placing a proprietary hand on his forearm. A wave of hot, visceral jealousy hit me, sharp and unexpected. It wasn't just about Liam's attention. It was about Maya's sudden, territorial shift, a side of her I'd never seen. Did she sense the magnetic pull between Liam and me? Was this her way of marking her territory? Later, I retreated to the balcony, needing air. The night was cool, and the city lights blurred beneath me. Seconds later, the door slid open. It was Liam. "Can't stand the heat?" he joked, but the look in his eyes was anything but light. He walked closer, stopping just inches away. I could feel the heat radiating off him, and the intoxicating scent of his cologne filled the small space. "It's not the heat, it's everything else," I confessed, looking out at the skyline. He turned me gently by the elbow so I was facing him. His eyes searched mine, raw and honest. "Look, your character's name." I'm trying to be respectful of Maya, but pretending I don't feel this is impossible. He gestured vaguely between us, the implication hanging heavy in the air. "Don't, Liam," I whispered, my voice thick with warning and desire. Every fiber of my being wanted to lean in, to close the minuscule space separating us. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic plea for release. He didn't move an inch, but his gaze dropped again to my mouth. The temptation was an almost physical force, pushing us together, threatening to shatter the fragile barrier of our loyalty. "It's been months of don't," he murmured, his voice husky, filled with pent-up longing. And I'm at my limit. Just as the silence stretched thin, charged with the certainty that one of us was about to cross the line, the balcony door opened fully. Maya stood there, her eyes narrowed, her smile gone. The air instantly turned glacial. "What are you two doing out here?" she asked, her tone flat, devoid of emotion, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 accusations. It wasn't the sound of anger, but the cold, unsettling sound of a secret being caught. Maya's interruption on the balcony didn't result in the explosive confrontation I'd anticipated. Instead, she offered a tight, unsettling smile and pulled Liam back inside, claiming she needed help with her music. The following days were agonizing. Maya was overly affectionate with Liam in front of me, but distant and moody when we were alone. The real breaking point came on Thursday. The three of us were helping clean out the dusty storage room at the bar, a task usually reserved for the staff we hated. Maya was supposed to be there, but at the last minute, she sent a text. Emergency. Be back later. It was just Liam and me, surrounded by forgotten boxes and the close, stale air of the confined space. We were moving a heavy stack of empty crates when the inevitable happened. Liam lost his footing on a loose floorboard. He stumbled back, catching himself, but in the process, he knocked a tall stack of menus onto the floor. To stop himself from falling completely, his free arm shot out, grabbing my waist, pulling me hard against his chest. The menus scattered forgotten around our feet. The air knocked out of me wasn't from the sudden jolt. It was from the shock of the fierce, urgent closeness. My hands were instinctively braced against his solid chest, and I could feel the rapid, heavy thump of his heart mirroring my own panicked rhythm. We were molded together, his grip firm and possessive, my body tingling where it met his. Sorry, he breathed, his voice ragged, his face mere inches from mine. His eyes, usually playful, were dark and intense. It's okay, I managed, the words catching in my throat. I should have pulled away immediately. I didn't. In that small, forgotten room, the boundaries felt meaningless. His proximity was a drug, intoxicating and dangerous. The air shimmered with the energy we had suppressed for months. He slowly loosened his grip on my waist, but his hands didn't leave. They settled instead on the curve of my hips, holding me in place. The yearning was so strong, so palpable, it felt like the walls themselves were closing in. He dipped his head, and I instinctively tilted mine up. His breath mingled with mine, hot and sweet. This was it. The moment we had been dancing around, the forbidden thing we both secretly craved. Just as his lips brushed mine, a loud, sharp snap echoed from the hallway, the sound of the old storage room door closing, the lock clicking into place. We froze, pulling apart instantly, eyes wide with panic. Hello? Maya? Who's there? I called out, hammering on the thick wooden door. Silence. Then, a low, unnerving chuckle, followed by a muffled voice that sounded chillingly like Maya's, saying something I couldn't quite make out. We were locked in. And that's when my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a picture message from an unknown number. I opened it, and my entire world tilted. It was a photo of Maya, laughing and wrapped intimately in the arms of a man I vaguely recognized, not Liam, but a mutual acquaintance. The caption beneath the photo was what truly broke me. We've been waiting for this moment. My blood ran cold. The picture, Maya, smiling radiantly, pressed against another man, someone named Alex who worked in the city, was devastating. But the caption, we've been waiting for this moment, suggested something premeditated, something deeply malicious. I stared at the screen, unable to process the betrayal. What is it? Liam asked, his voice low and urgent as he peered over my shoulder, still rattled from being locked in. I turned the phone, shoving it into his hand. He looked at the image, then back at me, his face registering a swift progression of shock, confusion, and then a flash of intense, protective rage. What the hell is this? Who sent you this? He demanded, crushing the phone slightly in his grip. An unknown number. I choked out, tears stinging my eyes, not just from the image, but from the realization that Maya's distance, her secrecy, wasn't about stress or family drama. It was about him. This doesn't make sense, Liam said, running a frustrated hand through his hair. Why would she send you this right now? That's when the truth, the real, stomach-churning twist, slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. The way she'd acted. The coldness. The chuckle from outside the door. She sent it, I whispered, the revelation chilling me to the core. She closed the door. She knew we were in here. Liam stopped pacing. His eyes widened, finally connecting the dots. She set this up? She knew? She knows about us, Liam, I said, the words heavy with shame and relief. The tension, the longing, everything. She knew, and she just handed us the opportunity. But why? The silence that followed was suffocating. We were trapped in a dark room, moments after a near kiss, holding undeniable proof of her betrayal. In that moment, the forbidden pull toward Liam became an anchor, a desperate need for genuine connection amidst the rubble of my friendship. I stepped toward him, my hands finding his chest again, but this time, there was no accidental stumble. It was a conscious decision, driven by hurt and raw, exposed desire. "She cheated on me, Liam," I said, my voice breaking. "She lied to me for months. She used me. And she wants us to know it." He didn't hesitate. All the months of shared glances, unspoken desires, and suppressed attraction exploded into the suffocating space. He brought his hands up to frame my face, his thumbs wiping the fresh tears from my cheeks. His eyes were burning, a mix of fury at Maya and overwhelming passion for me. "She played a dangerous game," he growled, the words barely audible before he finally, fiercely, closed the distance. The kiss wasn't tentative or playful. It was a desperate plunge. It was the release of months of yearning, a dizzying mix of anger, relief, and blinding desire. His lips were hot and demanding, his hands tangling immediately in my hair, pulling me closer until there was no space left for secrets or apologies. The betrayal outside the door, the humiliation of Maya's manipulative reveal, it all fueled the intensity of the moment. We were finally giving in, choosing the reckless, undeniable truth of our chemistry over the broken facade of her friendship. He lifted me slightly, pressing me back against the dusty wall, the urgency escalating. We were breathing heavily, the silence of the locked room amplifying the sound of our ragged gasps. Suddenly, the lock rattled loudly. The door was opening. We sprang apart, hearts pounding, guilt and exhilarating satisfaction warring in our chests. Standing in the light of the open doorway was not Maya, but a nervous-looking coworker. "Sorry, guys," I heard banging. "Maya just texted me. She said she knew you were in here, and wanted me to let you out now." The coworker paused, looking at our disheveled appearance. "She said, tell them their friendship with me is officially over. And have fun." The coworker looked confused, but Liam and I shared a look of horrified, complex understanding. Maya hadn't just exposed her cheating, she had orchestrated the end of her friendship and pushed us into an emotional collision, knowing the resulting pain would be far worse than the affair itself. And she wasn't done yet. "Wait," I said, noticing something tucked into the palm of the confused coworker's hand. It was a small, folded note. "Did Maya leave you anything else?" The coworker handed it over. I unfolded the note, my fingers trembling. The message was simple, yet utterly crushing, written in Maya's familiar looping handwriting. "I knew about you two the whole time, before the bar, before Liam even talked to you. You didn't steal him. I just gave him away. Now watch what I do next." The note felt like a slap. "I knew about you two the whole time. I just gave him away." Maya hadn't been an unwitting victim. She had been the calculating architect of our downfall. She didn't just know about the tension, she had been waiting for the moment we broke, timing her own betrayal and exposure to inflict maximum psychological damage. "She planned this," Liam muttered, his face pale, his earlier passion replaced by cold shock. "She used Alex just to frame the moment we got together. She wanted us to know she controlled the narrative." I crumpled the note in my hand. The initial, intoxicating rush of the kiss was instantly poisoned by the bitter taste of manipulation. We had played right into her elaborate, cruel trap. "She said I didn't steal you," I whispered, the words barely audible. "She gave you away." "Why, Liam? Why would she do this?" Liam looked at me, his eyes full of pain and self-reproach. "I don't know the full extent, but I knew Maya for a few years before I started working here. She was the one who encouraged me to apply. She always talked about you, your character's name. She used to say, you two would be perfect together, you have the same energy. I thought she was just being a good friend, matchmaking." He shook his head, the horror deepening. "Maybe she was testing our loyalty. Maybe she wanted proof that I'd choose her, or that you wouldn't betray her. And when we finally did, she had her exit strategy planned with Alex, ready to claim victimhood and destroy us in the process." The realization was a crushing weight. Our attraction, our moment of surrender, had been anticipated, perhaps even desired by the person we were trying not to hurt. We need to go talk to her, I said, my voice gaining a brittle resolve. No more texts, no more games. We face her. We found Maya an hour later at our favorite local coffee shop, sitting alone, scrolling through her phone, a picture of unnerving calm. When we walked in, her head lifted, and a slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. "Took you long enough," she said, taking a sip of her latte. Her eyes were hard, devoid of the warmth I had known for years. "What game are you playing, Maya?" I demanded, standing over her. "Alex? The note? Locking us in?" "It's not a game," she corrected, setting down her cup. "It's closure. For months, I watched you two dance around each other. The guilt was killing you, but the denial was boring me. I knew you would get together eventually, so I decided to make it official and on my terms." "By cheating on your boyfriend?" Liam interjected, his voice tight with controlled anger. "He was just a detail." Maya dismissed him with a wave of her hand. "The real betrayal was always you two. And now it's done. You're free to be together, and I'm free to move on. I win." She stood up, her movement deliberate and final. "The moment I realized I didn't want the guilt of your attraction to poison me anymore, I decided to end it dramatically. The pain you feel now, your character's name? That's the consequence of choosing him over me, and I made sure you felt it." I looked at her, not with anger, but with profound sorrow for the loss of the person she used to be. "The worst part wasn't the cheating, Maya. It was that you knew everything before me. You controlled the explosion." "Exactly," she said, her eyes glinting, a final, cold victory. She turned to leave, walking past us without a backward glance. Liam reached for my hand, his touch grounding and real in the midst of the emotional devastation. As Maya walked out the door and out of our lives, I looked at Liam. We had lost a friendship, been manipulated, and faced a humiliating public exposure, but we were still standing, hand in hand. The consequences were harsh, but the choice, however messy, had been made. "So," Liam said, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist, "where do we go from here?" I looked into his eyes, a small, genuine smile finally returning. "We go somewhere that has nothing to do with Maya." I paused, leaning in, letting go of the guilt and focusing on the clear path ahead. "We go somewhere we can actually be a couple." 2 weeks later, the dust had settled into a quiet, manageable ache. The silence from Maya was absolute, and while it left a gaping hole, it also created space for something new, something honest. Liam and I had transitioned, awkwardly at first, then seamlessly, into a relationship built not on secrecy and stolen glances, but on shared pain and undeniable connection. We were at his apartment, cooking a disastrous dinner of burned pasta and slightly singed garlic bread. He was leaning against the counter, watching me try to scrape the black bits off a piece of bread, a slow, gentle smile playing on his lips. "You know," he said, pushing off the counter and walking toward me, "for someone who can mix a perfect cocktail, your kitchen skills are endearing." I laughed, a real, unfettered sound that felt good after weeks of tense conversations. "Hey, don't judge my coping mechanisms. It's hard to focus when all I can think about is—" I trailed off, suddenly shy. He closed the final distance between us, standing so close that the warmth of his body enveloped me. He took the scorched bread from my hand and tossed it gently into the trash. His hand settled on my shoulders, his touch sending a familiar jolt through me, but this time, it was sweet, not forbidden. "Is that what you're thinking about?" he murmured, his gaze soft, focused entirely on me. I nodded slowly, looking up at him. "I'm thinking about the storage room. And how horrible the situation was, but how right that moment felt. It's insane, right? To find clarity in the middle of a betrayal? It was the truth, finally," Liam whispered, his voice deep and sincere. "We went through a fire, but we came out the other side. You, me, no lies, no guilt. Just us." He lowered his head, not for a frantic, desperate kiss like the one in the storage room, but for a tender, slow brush of his lips against mine. It was a promise, a quiet declaration of commitment. He kissed me again, deeper this time, a comfortable and intoxicating rhythm that spoke of safety and passion intertwined. He broke the kiss, resting his forehead against mine. I lost a friend I thought I knew, but I gained the person I was always supposed to be with. He paused, his hands moving to cup my face, his eyes searching mine with overwhelming affection. It's scary, facing all that fallout. But every time I look at you, I know we made the right choice. I would choose you again, 1,000 times, even knowing how much it hurt to lose Maya. My heart swelled with a feeling far deeper than the initial attraction. This was love forged in fire, stripped bare of all pretense. I reached up and gently touched his cheek. No more drama, no more secrets, I promised, leaning into his touch. Just us, and maybe a professional chef to teach me how to make edible pasta. Liam chuckled, a deep, happy sound. He pulled me into a tight embrace, holding me securely. Deal. Tomorrow, we start over. Clean slate. Fresh pasta. As we stood there, wrapped in the warmth of the kitchen, the scent of burned garlic fading, replaced by his clean, familiar scent, I felt a sense of peace. The past was messy, but the future, standing right there in the ruined kitchen, holding me close, was simple, strong, and beautifully ours. He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes one last time. You are the best choice I've ever made, your character's name. You too, Liam. You too. We kissed again, sealing the painful, dramatic journey with a final, satisfying, deeply romantic embrace. The story was over, and our life was just beginning.